You micromanage as a leader, you will limit and stifle your growth. But how directly related to our micromanagement of people is our subconscious micromanagement of God? Hello and welcome to Christ Church's Leadership Podcast. I have really some exciting material I want to share with you, and to give you also kind of a clarification up front. About 6 weeks ago, I had the pleasure of being with our Global Leadership Network team and talking about the Global Leadership Summit that's coming up August the 7th and the 8th. We're hosting it here at Christ Church, and it's hosted, of course, all throughout the United States, August 7th and the 8th. Check that out online. Wherever you live, you may be able to find a host site near you, and I would urge you to attend. I think it's one of the greatest leadership events that happens any place on planet Earth. They bring together an incredible team, a diverse team, and usually there's 3 or 4 people I've never even heard of, and I'll walk away thinking, gosh, I'm so glad she or he spoke at the summit. Craig gave several talks, Craig Groeschel, who's kind of our point person and leader for this, and so I'm borrowing some of his material today, but it's rooted in our one-year Bible reading. And our one-year Bible reading is Luke chapter 12. I'm going to share a few verses there. We're also going to go to Deuteronomy, which is part of our one-year Bible reading, in Deuteronomy 32. And then we're going to share a little bit about Craig's emphasis with us that I want to pass on. He had 6 habits that leaders need to break. 6 habits that leaders need to break. And I can't get through but just one of them today because it is so pregnant with ripple effects, all kinds of dimensions of personal growth, team growth, the growth of your organization. And we've just got to camp out on number 1 first and foremost. And maybe we'll get to the others for the next leadership podcast. But let's go to Luke 12. Jesus, of course, is teaching here in Luke's gospel in verse 42. And the Lord replied, Jesus is talking, the disciples are interchanging with him here, but he says, a faithful, sensible servant, because they're asking him to translate the parable that he just gave. A faithful, sensible servant is one to whom the master can give the responsibility of managing his other household servants and feeding them. If the master returns and finds that the servant has done a good job, there will be a reward. I tell you the truth, the master will put that servant in charge of all he owns. Going down to verse 47, and a servant who knows what the master wants, but isn't prepared and doesn't carry out those instructions will be severely punished. There's accountability there. But someone who does not know and then does something wrong will be punished only lightly. When someone has been given much, much will be required in return. And when someone has been entrusted with much, even more will be required. And then here in here in Deuteronomy chapter 32, they are echoing what took place actually in the book of Numbers, chapter 20, verses 1 through 13. This is the final account here of Moses when he's preparing to go to the mountain to die. And God's very honest with Moses about his life and his ministry. Verse 48, the same day the Lord said to Moses, go to Moab, to the mountain east of the river, and climb Mount Nebo, which is across from Jericho. Look out across the land of Canaan, the land that I am giving to the people of Israel as their own special possession. Then you will die there on the mountain. You will join your ancestors, just as Aaron your brother died on Mount Hor and joined his ancestors. For both of you betrayed me with the Israelites at the waters of Meribah, at Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin. You failed to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel there. So you will see the land from a distance, but you may not enter the land I'm giving to the people of Israel. Obedience is a big deal to God. Obedience reveals our trust of God, but ultimately, obedience reveals our love and our devotion to God. The Ten Commandments are not a list of do's and don'ts. The Ten Commandments are not a set of rules that you have to abide by, and if you don't, God's going to zap you. You will never fully understand the Ten Commandments apart from God intending this to be about a relationship. The first four are about our relationship with God. The remaining commandments are about our relationship with one another. That's what the commandments are rooted in. They're rooted in relationship. And so keep that in mind as we go to, okay, now if you're a thinking individual and you're not familiar with what God is referencing here in Deuteronomy chapter 32, you're going to be asking, what was it that Moses didn't do? What was it he disobeyed? Well, let's go to Numbers chapter 20, and let's look at that. We're not going to read all of it. Just know that the people were griping and fussing and complaining. Have you brought us out here to dehydrate, to starve? Have you brought us out here to die? And so Moses and Aaron in verse 6 of 20 turned away from the people, went to the entrance of the tabernacle where they fell face down on the ground. Then the glorious presence of the Lord appeared to them. And the Lord said to Moses, you and Aaron must take the staff and assemble the entire community. As the people watch, speak to the rock over there. Speak. Before Moses had taken the staff, the very staff that he had raised up, and the waters of the Red Sea had parted so that they could cross over and not be annihilated by the Egyptians. That same staff he had taken earlier and had hit the rock twice and water came out. This time, take the staff in hand, but speak to the rock. Speak out of faith. Trust me. Speak. And as the people watch, speak to the rock over there. The key is as the people watch. And it will pour out its water. You will provide enough water from the rock to satisfy the whole community and their livestock. So Moses did as he was told. He took the staff from the place where it was kept before the Lord. Then he and Aaron summoned the people to come and gather at the rock. Listen, you rebels, he shouted. Must we bring you water from this rock? Then Moses raised his hand and struck the rock twice with the staff, and the water gushed out, so the entire community and their livestock drank their fill. And if you are putting all the pieces together, you're like, what? I thought God said, speak. But when Moses hit the rock twice, in God's mercy, he still allowed water to flow. But God did not forget Moses' disobedience, his lack of trust, his lack of faith, his micromanagement of God. You ever think of that? The first habit we're supposed to break in leadership, according to Craig Groeschel, and I think he's dead on the money, is micromanagement. You micromanage as a leader, you won't have many leaders around you very long. You micromanage as a leader, you won't have many people to stay with you very long. You micromanage as a leader, you will limit and stifle your growth. But how directly related to our micromanagement of people is our subconscious micromanagement of God. We're going to talk about that. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not trust me enough to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel, you will not lead them into the land I'm giving them. This place was known as the waters of Meribah, which means arguing. because there the people of Israel argued with the Lord, and there he demonstrated his holiness among them. As we say at Christ Church, Isaiah 40 says, the grass will wither and the flowers will fade away, but the word of our living God, it will stand forever. So, 6 habits to break. The first one is micromanaging. Micromanaging because it stifles growth. Micromanaging because it causes staff not to remain. You can give control. You can have control in an organization, or you can have growth, but you cannot have both. I've heard Craig say that multiple times over the years. You can have control in your organization, or you can have growth, but you can't have both. So what is it? What is it you need to give up control of so growth can actually take place? What are you micromanaging to death that's stifling the energy, capacity, the potential for volunteers to emerge, for more people to be passionate about the ministry? But yet, because of anxiety in our life, stress, worry, fears, all of those inhabit our human conscience. And yes, even as followers of Christ, inhabit the very pits of our soul. And so we want to manage, micromanage, control. What is it we need to give up control? Trust God, trust people. So growth, potential can be realized. As a leader, we have to be clear. So how do we deal with this issue of micromanagement? Craig gives us 3 things which I think are real important, and then I want to talk a little bit about them in relation to the text. First of all, so I'm kind of doing a Craig Rochelle and a Jesus talk in Luke 12 and a Moses journey in Numbers 20, and so I hope it'll take root. As a leader, we have to be clear about the what. We have to be clear about the what. If you want your team to be energized, if you want folks to know, okay, what are we doing? What's the direction? What's the goal? What's the goal? Well, if you're going to have a mission statement, don't have a mission statement, just put it on the wall. So at Christ Church, I've tried to be crystal clear about our mission in our worship team, with our worship team. This is who we are. This is what we're about. With our student ministry team, with our children's team, with our volunteers. When it comes to developing people and people joining the church, we call it developing followers at Christ Church. We've tried to be crystal clear about the what. The what is we want to reach unchurched people. We want to reach millions of unchurched people. Now, reaching millions of unchurched people is a big, hairy, audacious goal. It's beyond us. It may take 40 or 50 or 60 years for that to be realized. I may not see it in my lifetime. But already I have seen God doing things in just the last 4 or 5 years that have helped us to reach out exponentially beyond the walls of Christ Church, even beyond our partners. We've planted 44 churches since 2008 in 3 different countries. We continue to plant new churches. We have multi-site. We've got multiple campuses. We're now involved in ministry in jails and in prisons, not just in the state of North Carolina, but in 14 states throughout the southeastern United States. We're online. We have an online campus that reaches somewhere between 45 and 50 different countries. So I'm not sure how God's going to reach that, but that's our goal, is to reach millions of unchurched persons. The second part of that is by developing thousands of fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ. So that's our what. In worship, we design our worship services with the first-time guest in mind. When she comes through the door and she's never been to church in her life, She needs to be able to understand what's going on. It does not need to be a total foreign experience or foreign language. That's why we say we have inspirational and incarnational worship. It's got to be incarnational. It's got to be real. And it's got to be something that a first-time guest can relate to. Therefore, we don't say things like we're passing the peace. What in the world is that? It's a nice phrase. It has some rootage in antiquity. But we just say, let's turn and greet our neighbors and shake a hand and say hello to somebody. Maybe introduce yourself to somebody you've never met. So our language, everything we think about, everything we do, is it easy to navigate? And so that's very important. And so worship, reaching unchurched people, and then developing fully devoted followers. So part of our worship, we do not announce anything unless the first-time guest can take part in it. But we announce continually opportunities for being involved in a life group or being involved in serving in some way, or how you can help and care for someone else. So that strategy is even in worship. In our children's ministry, are we designing our children's ministry to be welcoming and have irresistible environments for first-time guests and to reach unchurched people? And then what are we doing to develop the children and the parents? Because parents, we know, spend more time with the children than we do once a week, or maybe 40 times a year if the average child attends 40 services out of 52 in the year. What are we doing to develop that child? Same thing with student ministry. We want to be able to reach the unchurched. Are we reaching unchurched students? Are guests coming? Do we have environments where students are inviting students, and are they coming? When they do come, are they growing in the faith? Are they getting involved, not just in scripture study, but serving in the community? When it comes to creating irresistible environments and first-time guests, and when it comes to our volunteer ministry, our parking lot shepherds, our greeters, we tell them, you guys, listen, within the first 12 minutes, studies have proven within the first 12 minutes, people know whether they want to come back or not. That's before the pastor even gets up to preach. Are we creating environments that welcome people? Are we creating environments where people want to come back because they feel like they're not a number, they are a name, and they're valuable? And so we've got to be clear about our what. So he says, first of all, clearly define the what. What are you trying to achieve? What is it that you're about? If you're a for-profit organization, what do? Do you create a product? Do you provide a service? Clearly define your what. Secondly, reward the what when you see it. Reward the what. When the what's being done well, when people are bringing people, when people are developing people, when people are just caring for people, and you see that, then you reward that. In our staff meeting, we often share yay gods. I think it's important in every worship service that we intentionally reward the what. Reward it. People will repeat what you reward. Jesus just said here in Luke chapter 12, he said that the servant that obeys and is faithful to the master will be rewarded. Rewarded. He'll be rewarded if you can trust him. And then the third thing, and it's right here in Luke 12, the third thing is correct it when you're not seeing it or it's getting off base. Correct it. Correct it when you're not seeing it or when it's getting off base. Now, in order not to micromanage, so let's go over the three again. Clearly define the what. 2, reward the what when you see it, and do it on the spot if possible. And number 3, correct it when you're not seeing it or it's getting off base. I want to point out that Moses' struggle, and I believe is our struggle, is that I believe that Moses had gone into default. God told him earlier, strike the rock. Strike it twice and water will come out. This time, in Numbers chapter 20, he said, I want you to speak to the rock. Now notice the crowd was all gathered around. The crowd was all gathered around. Now Moses is asked by God to do something new. and the crowd's all watching. What if I speak and nothing comes out? Micromanagement is often the result of us not trusting and believing in a big God and doing things on our own strength and our own power, because we want to control the outcome. You can have control or you can have growth, but you can't have both. So what is it we need to give up control of so that God can provide the growth? I think the growth happens internally first with my walk with God, my trust with God. And then it happens as I actualize it. I take steps of faith. I'm willing to take risk. You see, here's the deal. I can't trust people until I first trust God. I can't trust people until I first trust God. I had to get over that early on. When I came to Christ Church and I implemented Wesley's 200-year-old life group emphasis of creating class leaders and multiplying class leaders and class leaders doing studies, this type of thing, I had to trust people that people would pretty much share what I wanted them to share, what they needed to share in life groups. I had to trust. The only way I could trust them is to trust God. To trust that they were going to pray and try to lead as best they could. And if they did it 60 or 70% as good as I could, that's enough. Just go do it, please. And do it faithfully. But we try to have rallies 4 times a year where we get lay pastors together and we try to talk about what you're doing. We try to reward behavior when we see it. Those things are all important. But if I don't trust God, it's going to be hard for me to trust people. Some of you may say the opposite. Well, I trust people, but I don't know about God. Well, I think it's important, according to John's letter, that we love God and that we love God first. And therefore, we're able to love people. And I think the same parallel is with trust. Moses tried to micromanage God. What he wanted to manage, Moses went to his default. And what had worked before, instead of trusting God for a new thing, speak. Your micromanaging is a clear sign and mine that we're not trusting God. And then secondly, it's going to be hard to trust people. So I believe our lack of trust in God does precipitate this. In other words, I believe God's ultimate will is going to be done. I believe God's ultimate will is going to be done. If I have to work through 1 or 2 leaders to eventually get something done, I'm just going to have to trust some folks along the way. And I may have to work through 2 or 3 leaders until I can find one that I can trust who can actually lead something and lead it significantly, but I've still got to trust people. Now, you obviously trust, like Jesus says, whoever's faithful over little will be faithful over much. So there's wisdom in what Jesus says. Give somebody a responsibility that won't totally wreck the bank, that won't totally whatever, and just entrust them and see how they do. So we call it giving people smaller platforms. And then eventually as they are faithful over that, then you can entrust them with more. That's what Jesus said. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in it. So I believe that what you do is you've got to be clear as a leader about the what, and then you reward it when you see it, and you correct it when you don't. But we've got to let our leaders run with the how. So we have to be clear about the what as leaders, and then let them run with the how. A lot of times, the teams that we work with combined are so much smarter than the leader. The leader may be clear about the what and has spent time with that, but we need to trust others for the how. How do we get this done? I'm going to trust you with that. As long as you are clear about the what we want to do, then I'm going to trust you with the how. And so we've got to be clear about the what and then entrust people with the how and how to get it done, how to implement it, and then how to bring it about and how to bring it into fruition. But to consistently be clear about the what. And we do that by being clear about the what We reward it, then we correct it when we don't see it. But at the end of the day, trust God and trust people. Thank you for joining us for the podcast.